And joining us now to discuss the rise of Democratic Socialists is Alvin Lui. President of Courage is a Habit. So Alvin, good afternoon. Good to see you. So I understand you said that DSA victories aren't a true working class movement, but are bankrolled by wealthy elites. Why do you say that, and why is this an important point?
Don, it's always lovely to see you. So the Democratic Socialists is just a fancy term for very jealous people who don't want to do anything and want to take from the people that do. And normally, if that was just lazy people, we all know lazy people, that's fine. But the problem is that this is the attitude and the culture that is pervasive in government K through 12 and, of course, in colleges. And so the idea is that these children grow up wanting to take from people who sacrifice, who toil, who work very, very hard, and who has delayed gratification, who wants to leave something better for their children, which is the American dream. And this is just a thing that every human being wants to do. You want your children to have a leg up over you. And these Democratic Socialists hate generational wealth. And I'm not just talking about billionaires. I'm not just talking about millionaires. I'm talking about if you're just an average family that wants to leave a property or two for your children so that they can build for their children. They want to take that from you because that's the only way you can destroy America is to make everybody dependent on government. And that's exactly what these Democratic Socialists do. And this is what they're teaching your kids in school through culturally responsive teaching and critical race theory.
I mean, is that what they ultimately want? What socialism and communism always leads to? Because why do these candidates or this idea of socialism and communism take such issue with people that are well off or those that are wealthy? Why?
Well, you hear it in their disdain. They're jealous, they're envious, they're miserable. Every time someone does well, they'll say it's because your parents have money or your parents started you off, as if that's supposed to be something to be ashamed about. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans do feel ashamed about that. They feel ashamed that their parents did something for them. And so then they start to be ashamed and don't want to say too loud that their parents thought about them. And I want to change that conversation. I want the people that have parents who thought about them to be proud and say, that's exactly right. My parents loved me enough to leave me something. I'm sorry that your parents didn't do that for you. So now you go do it for your children, but don't take it from me and don't take it from my children. The reason why that they're all like this, that Democratic Socialists, is because if you make generational wealth something to strive for again, then they're done. Communism only has power in grievance. They only have power if they can point to people who are successful and say, those people are the reason why you're not where you want to be. And so if you have families that are moving towards that for their children, or at least their grandchildren, then it's very difficult, Don, to tell people that you should rely on government when you're relying on yourself. So you have to get people to be jealous and angry and spend all their energy marching and protesting and holding flags instead of working at home to build something for themselves. So they spend all their energy being angry at people that are building, that are creating wealth, that are creating jobs, instead of spending time mimicking those people and studying and reading and finding out what it takes to build your dreams. They end up just marching around, holding flags and being violent.
Yeah, I mean, class struggle, that's a core tenet of communism. It's well known. But, supporters of socialism, they claim or argue that, redistribution is about fairness, helping the poor. Mm-hmm. What is your response to this?
That's always by helping the poor, Don. Always. It's always Black kids, brown kids, poor people, old people. It's always the emotional blackmail. And you'll notice that the more democratic policies take hold, the more democratic socialist policies take hold, the first people that do poorly and get hurt are the Black people or the poor people or the old people, is because they don't use that money to help anybody, because you can't help anybody. You can never pull people up. not the government anyway. Now, you and I individually, if you help somebody, like if you want to say, somebody says, hey, Don, I want to get into media. How did you get to be where you are? You can help that person up, you as an individual, but the government can't help that person. What the government can do is they can pull people down. That's what government's good at. And so this is what they tell kids. This is what they tell most of these people who have a lot of white guilt and white shame that hate America. They buy into that. But none of that goes to help anybody. All it does is pull people down. And then obviously the people that are already on the bottom, instead of lifting them up, they go down even further. And then they rinse and repeat that message.
Okay, so Alvin, it was a pleasant convenience today that we're talking about communism and socialism, that our NTD reporter actually asked the president today in the NATO summit about socialism and communism. If you don't mind, let's just take a quick listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. President, for doing this. Iris Tao with NTD, with a sister media with the Epoch Times.
Okay.
On communism, you've been issuing a wake-up call to Americans at home about the dangers of communism. And now you're speaking on the world stage. What's your message to people both living under communist and socialist regimes, but also people living under democracies like in Europe and America, who might not have realized how close communism has come to home?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. But look, I want to get the word out, because what's forming is communism in the country. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor.
Okay, so Alvin, let me get your reaction to what you heard. Why do you believe democratic socialism or communism is dangerous to the American family, the American way of life?
Well, that was a great question by Iris, and Iris, she's great. What the President Trump said is correct. When he was talking about World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, those are external attacks. You're talking about a physical attack. A physical attack you can beat. It's war. It's a physical war. This democratic socialism, which is ultimately leads to communism, is far more dangerous because it's about the mind and it's about the heart. It's about taking American children and making them hate America. It's about making them hate the very system that can actually help them be successful or very, very successful. And so that is far more dangerous, because once you brainwash children to hate their own country, you just let nature take its course. It's just a matter of time. And that's exactly what's happening in schools now. In the younger grades, it doesn't come in as democratic socialism or communism. It comes in as words like inclusion, human rights, be kind. Be kind to who? They don't talk about be kind to the girls who doesn't want mentally ill men in their sports. They don't talk about be kind to the families that get hurt by illegal aliens. So that's how they start training kids to look at America as an oppressor model. And I always love this quote by the great Abraham Lincoln. He said that the philosophy of the schoolhouse in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. And that is exactly what President Trump is referring to. Once you have communism comes in, you can't ever roll it back.
Okay, let me ask you more about that. The appearance that communism, socialism is appealing to younger generations, would you attribute that to education the most?
100% education, 100% education, both in the K through 12 and academia. The reason why it appeals to young people is because all little children are socialists at heart. They're very giving. If you say, hey, this is expensive, should it be free? If you ask 100 4-year-olds will tell you, yeah, it should be free. The reason why little kids can be socialists is because their parents take care of everything. They have the luxury to be socialist, which is fantastic. That's what you have parents for. So they don't have to pay for anything. They don't ever have to pay for their mistakes. They don't have to pay for being wrong, because their parents provide everything, which is great, which is fine, which is why socialism sounds so good to little kids. Obviously, as parents, our job is to teach them that while that might work in your household, even when you get older, you have to contribute to your household. You have to understand that these things need to be taken care of. And then as you get older, obviously you understand that doesn't work outside your home. But K through 12 education make sure that you can be 18, 19, and then when you go to college, if you go to college later on, you stay that 4-year-old. You stay that naive 4-year-old. The only difference is really adorable when you're 4, but you're very, very angry and hopeless when you're 25. And that's what they're doing to children, because the children can be socialist because the parents take care of everything. And then when they get older, they don't ever grow up because the K through 12 brainwashes them. So now the government becomes their parents. So the government's supposed to take care of everything. Here's the big difference though. Your parents love you. Your parents love you and they take care of things because they love you. The government doesn't love you. They take care of things so that they can take it away from you. And that's exactly what communism does.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point that I've never actually thought about, that a household with kids essentially is a socialist household until the child can contribute later in life. That's a point I've never actually thought about. I'll just end with this question here, Alvin. So another tenet of socialism and of course communism is that the people's rights come from the state. So what happens when a government doesn't believe that people have unalienable rights?
Well, what the government gives, the government take away. So they can give it to you temporarily because you have the right thought process. But what happens when you don't have the right thought process? What happens when you start speaking out against government? So every time you ask government to give you something that you should do, every time you ask government to take from someone else, so because you don't want to do it, that might work out for you in the short term, but it always ends the same way. And you're playing the videos here, of course, Mao's China. The people who are the useful idiots that are holding the flags and that are holding the signs and the banners right now, you and I both know that history tells us they're the first person that they have turned against the wall, or they get shipped out like Mao did up to the fields for hard labor. Because once a useful idiot has completed his or her mission for this government, he ceases to be useful, but he's still an idiot. And he's very useless to the communist regime once they take over. So they ship him out or they have him grab the wall and then put him in the hole. That's what all dictators do. That's what all communists do. But when you brainwash children at a very young age to be kind, welcoming schools, social emotional learning, those things, it starts very young. And then you're good with open borders. You're good with taking from the rich. You're good with all those things. And if you get your wish, you're the first idiot that they put into the hard labor or the hole.
Yeah, I mean, history lays it out very clearly that communism never works. And it's really, to your point, that it's all up to education to let kids know this history, that it doesn't work. Well, Alvin, it's always great to speak with you today. Thank you for your time. I enjoyed this conversation.
Don, always a pleasure. Thank you.